Welcome to Career Channels, the official podcast of CareerSource North Florida. And now, on to the episode.
So we're picking back up for part 2 of the layoff and reskill episode. And I wanted to ask, how did you first get connected with CareerSource?
So initially, my brother works at DMH, and he had friends who are instructors here at the college.
Mhm.
And he made mention to them that I was wanting to get into nursing, and they're the ones who said you should come to Big Bend Technical College. There's a lot of assistance because they knew I was laid off, unskilled in most areas. Like I had been a correction officer in the past, but lost all those standards years ago. So that would have been a whole nother recertification. And I was like, no, I want to be a nurse. And they said, come here, talk with the ladies here. And it was this college who said, hey, there's CareerSource. They offer funding. And you need to go talk with them because you've been laid off from the mill. And stepped in and spoke with Miss Glenda. I cannot remember her last name, but she's an amazing asset of y'all's.
That is Miss Glenda Branch.
Miss Glenda Branch. She wears all kind of beautiful hats. She really took me under her wing, and just helped me with the process and said, hey, you're a displaced worker. You're gonna get funding for this. We'll even if you can get in that LPN program, we will go ahead and agree to fund you on that because that is your goal. And she just tremendously helped me. So it was the college staff here that really directed me to you guys. I don't even know where you guys get your funding, but I'm so grateful for it.
Well, we are actually federally funded.
Okay.
We're a federally funded nonprofit. So that comes from way up top. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And the great thing about us working in Region 6 where we are, and it being so rural, is we have such a great partnership with these schools, and they will refer students to us, we'll refer students back to them. And just like with you came in, asked them one thing, and they said, hey, go check this out.
Yep.
So with all of that, what do you feel like helped you the most?
Honestly, just so my husband also worked at the mill, so both of us were immediately unemployed. Matter of fact, our last day was the same day, October 6th. We just escorted out the gate, and then there we were. And so he didn't have a job, I didn't have a job. I had no idea how I was going to be able to not only pay for the education, but then at the same time pay for life. So he immediately got a part-time job, and then he ended up getting a full-time job. But we were a 2-income family, and now we're up, and the level of the income changed too. So he went from $27 an hour to $13.50. So we had to change the way we lived, and then there was me full-time school and him full-time work. So that was the hard part, not having any spending money, but knowing I had the education paid for, where you guys stepped in and paid 100% of that tuition, of the books, even paid for my uniforms I had to wear for the PCT class, paid for my testing, just all of that. I would not have been able to do it. I would have had to work at least a part-time job, which would have interfered with the full-time schooling. So, and that was the thing. Even in LPN class, I ended up getting a very part-time job for experience at DMH. I worked like one day every week or two, which paid for some of, gas back and forth to the college. And I would go to lunch like once every week with some of my friends, stuff like that. But just knowing you guys had covered all that expense for me made it possible. There were young ladies in my LPN class who had to work to be able to afford it. And I felt horrible for them I said, why have you not applied with Career Source? And they were like, oh, well, it's such a long drawn out process. I said, it really isn't. If, you would not be working a full-time job if you'd went and really spent a little time with Miss Glenda Branch. And there was several others. Y'all had a young lady there who had worked at the mill also, Jennifer Eakins, another great asset. I think she's moved on now, but she was a great asset for you guys. Just, it was tremendous in what you did for me. It made me able to do what I did. So, and that's one of the reasons I really wanted to come talk with you guys. I want everyone to know what kind of help you really were to me.
And we really appreciate that.
And it's tremendous. I couldn't have done it without you. There was some people who said, oh, you could get a Pell Grant. No, I couldn't. I'd made too much money the year before to get any kind of Pell Grant service. So that was out of the picture. And I was like, this is my only option. And it worked tremendously for me.
Awesome. So from the point of layoff to graduation, at what point in the whole process did you feel like things were really starting to turn around and you could finally see that light at the end of the tunnel?
Just getting into the LPN program, I was like, okay, I see what I want. It's in view. While I was in PCT, it still wasn't in view. I was like, I'm working towards this. Once I got into that class and like through that first semester, like I said, when some of the other students were having to work full time, they were leaving class and going to a job and working an entire night shift and then trying to come to class the next morning. I was like, wow, I'm so fortunate that I'm not working a night shift. I was like, and kept my grades up, just kept chugging along. Like I said, probably after that first semester, I could really see, I was like, okay, this is gonna happen. That was it for me. That was where I really started really focusing on it and saying, okay, think about what you want to do, because in less than a year, you're going to be an LPN. Think about where you want to work. There were so many options. You go to your doctor's office and you're like, oh, could I work here? This would be a cool job.
And a lot of people don't seem to understand how many different specialties there are in nursing.
Yes.
Because we have students all the time, oh, I want to go be a nurse. Okay. Do you want to work prenatal? Do you want to work emergency? Do you want to work travel? All of these different pieces. And they're just like, I hadn't thought about that.
Right. There's a lot of options. Outpatient surgery. There's so many things. If you want to see the same people all the time, work at a doctor's office. If you want to see a huge variety, work at a hospital.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of options there. There's a lot of local options for me. Like in our region, there's a rural hospital here, one in Madison, really good. Then if I wanted to drive to Tallahassee, there's thousands of jobs up there and lots of specialty up there. So that's all within reach of me now.
So with all of that, everything you've learned, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to somebody who just got laid off or just quit their job, what advice would you give them on what to do next?
Cry about it for a minute and then get focused, think about what you want to do and go make it happen. And there are people to help you do it. All you have to do is voice it. I told my close friends and family, I want to be a nurse. I want a job that Charles Koch can't take away from me. I don't hate that man, but he can't take this job away from me. He took the last one. But do that, be honest about what you want and ask for help and be willing to do the work. There's work in it. Like some of those girls in my class were like, that process with Career Source is kind of long. Maybe so, but there's people there to help you. Ask questions. Like me with Miss Glenda. Miss Glenda, I can't get this done. How do I need to do this? And she would walk me through it. She would say, this is what you need. Go back home, find your last pay stub, whatever, you know, this is the numbers you need, or whatever it was, and just stick to your guns and do it. You gotta have a little initiative. Nothing is a handout in this world.
Unfortunately, no. So, looking back at everything from start to finish, what's something you learned about yourself, and what kind of career outlook has changed throughout all that?
So I would say what I learned about myself is I am happiest when I'm helping somebody. For a long time, like the 10 years I worked at that mill, my goal was to make money. Just, I want to make this money so I can do the things I want to do. My whole attitude has changed. I want a job now where I can help somebody. Well, I guess maybe in essence, paying it forward, giving it back. I've been helped a bunch. Like I said, this whole thing has been humbling, and that's a good thing. I've realized I'm happiest at that hospital trying to help somebody. If I never go any higher than an LPN, as long as I'm helping somebody, I think I'm going to be happy. And it took losing a really good paying job to realize that, maybe, and I think back of all my other careers, I think I was always looking for something to help people, as a correction officer. The thing I loved about that job is I sometimes was able to help people. And there's just a lot of noise in the way of that in corrections. So I'm happier now. God, my path went in all different directions, but I think I'm finally on the path that makes me the happiest, helping people.
And a lot of people overestimate the enjoyment of money.
Yes. Yeah.
But like you said, once you actually find something that makes you happy,
Mm-hmm.
you're willing to take a little bit less money for it.
Yep. I was jumping for joy when they told me my pay rate at this new job, and it's nothing in comparison to what I made at that pulp mill. And I'm fine with that. I'm better than fine with that. I mean, like I said, I think my eyes are finally open to what matters. So I'm good with that.
And we're just happy to be along for the ride with you.
I'm so thankful for like I said, the help you guys give me. It was tremendous. I couldn't have done it without you. So yay to Career Source. Anybody that thinks they want to go back to school needs to check out Career Source, check out your local colleges and technical colleges, because there's so much they offer.
Well, you guys heard it here. I mean, if you're looking for help in changing your career, improving your career, or starting over, give us a call, 850-973-9675, or you can go online, careersourcenorthflorida.com, and we can get you started on your journey today. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you again for sharing your story. And remember, you can find your career path here with Career Channels.
You've been listening to Career Channels, the official podcast of Career Source North Florida. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about Career Source North Florida and the services they provide, visit careersourcenorthflorida.com. That's careersourcenorthflorida.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.